All right, we concluded our mid-morning recess at this time then. Detective Wheeler's still on the stand, still under oath for his testimony. And this will be the time for cross-examination. When you get to any exhibits, we did discuss those in a sidebar. And Mr. Pryor, you can just move for admissions of any exhibits you have with this cross-examination. So,
And Judge, by stipulation of the parties are stipulating to Defense Exhibit 63, which represents the body cam of Officer Wheeler, which I don't think has been brought up yet.
all right, Exhibit 63 was clarified. It is not the same as what we previously said was 300B. So 63 is a new exhibit, and I understand the state's reviewed that. Is there any objection to Exhibit 63 being admitted? All right, Exhibit 63 is admitted then. Mr. Pryor, you can commence with your cross.
And Judge, at the appropriate time, I'll ask permission to publish when I get to that point.
Very well.
Officer Wheeler, I just want to clarify a couple of things if we could.
Yep.
I want to clarify your role from the morning when you arrived at 7 a.m. and your testimony is you did arrive at about 7 a.m. Is that right?
Correct.
Okay. And then what was your role immediately at 7 a.m.?
So I assisted in securing the front roadway that goes in front of the property, 1900 East. And then just assisting with any crowd control and traffic control at that intersection in that road.
Okay. Was there a significant crowd there at that point?
No, there had not been right at 7.
Okay. And approximately how many officers were there at the time?
I can't testify to that.
Okay. You did say multiple agencies, right?
Correct.
Those agencies would include the FBI,
Yes.
the Rexburg Police Department,
Yes.
the Fremont County Police Department,
Sheriff's Office.
Sheriff's Office. Give me Sheriff's Office. Yes. Madison County as well.
I don't recall seeing any Madison County to my knowledge.
Okay. Any other citizens there other than law enforcement who were present that you recognized
Not on the property, no.
on the 9th?
Not on it. Nope.
Okay. Okay. Now, your duties at the time back on this date of 2020, what was your primary job other than this working on this case at that time?
I was a sergeant in patrol, so helping with scheduling, shift coverage.
So you would also go out on patrol and you would do, that was part of your role. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. And and at the time, you were, this is where I'm a little confused. At the time you were with the Rexburg Police Department or were you with a different agency?
Rexburg Police Department.
Okay. And as part of your duties, as part of your role as a sergeant, supervisory role, you had a vehicle with a camera inside, right?
Yes.
And the camera also videotaped outside. Is that right?
Yes.
And as part of your role in a supervisory position with the Rexburg Police Department, you also carried a body cam. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay. And it was standard for you to carry a body cam as part of your role as in a supervisory position. Is that right?
For patrol, yes.
Okay. Okay. Now, in describing Fremont County, that's a rural part of town out near Mr. Daybell's place. Is that fair?
Yes.
Okay. Now, from 7 o'clock until what time did you leave your role as your supervisory position in overseeing the comings and goings of people going onto the property?
I would say when I was asked to make the traffic stop.
So in other words, you were there at 7 a.m. And when you made the traffic stop, and again, what time was that?
I believe it was approximately 11:20 a.m.
Okay, so you were there for approximately 4 hours and 20 minutes. Your role was to supervise the outside of the property there and obviously keep an eye on Mr. Daybell, right?
Correct.
Okay. And from 7 o'clock until 11 o'clock, again, tell me where Mr. Daybell's whereabouts were?
So initially he got into his car, moved it to the west side of his home in the driveway. Later took it over to the house kitty corner from his property, and then left southbound on 1900 East.
Okay, so from the time he parked the car in the driveway, how long did he sit in the driveway?
This would be an estimation,
Oh, that's-
approximately an hour, 45 minutes to an hour.
Okay, so if, and I'm not gonna hold you to this.
Yeah.
7 to 8 o'clock is fair for him being in the driveway.
He didn't exit the house till 7:30
Okay, 7 to 8:30 in the driveway?
approximately.
And then you saw him get in his car. And you said that the tail end was backed into to the garage, right?
At his property, yes,
So the tail end of his vehicle was to the back where the garage is.
correct.
And how far from the back of the garage was Mr. Daybell's, bumper? Can you tell me?
I couldn't
Was it close? Was it far?
to the garage.
Yeah.
Back bumper to the garage.
Yeah.
I know you could walk between it.
You could walk between it.
Yes.
So there wasn't 30 feet, but it was closer to just a couple of feet to get behind.
I can't testify to that.
You don't remember?
I don't remember. exactly.
Okay, that's okay. So then approximately about 8:30, you saw the car exit and he drove over to Emma's place. Is that right?
Yes,
Okay, did he have any contact with law enforcement up until that time?
he had.
He had?
Yes.
Do you know who spoke with him?
I don't know everybody that spoke to him when they made contact inside the home originally.
So at some point, he was advised that they found remains on his property. When did that take place?
That didn't take place to my knowledge until he was stopped on a traffic stop.
Oh, okay. So and this is where I'm kind of confused. And please, educate me a little bit. So you said that Mr. Daybell was in Emma's house, his daughter's house, for about an hour and a half, maybe 2 hours. Is that fair?
Yeah.
Okay. And while he was in the house, you didn't see him try to run away or flee or do anything like that, right?
Correct.
He didn't have any knowledge of anything going on out on his property other than there were multiple police officers out there, right?
I can't testify to that. I don't know what he could see from that home.
Well, as a patrol officer, you understand, and as a sergeant, you understand that when someone is stopped for a traffic ticket, there's a certain amount of anxiety with people when that happens to them. Would you agree with that?
Yeah.
And would you agree then that if there are 30 plus police officers showing up at your property and looking all over your property outside, not inside, but outside, would that tend to think that maybe you're a little curious about what's going on your property?
It could.
And that doesn't mean that you're guilty of anything. That doesn't mean you have any knowledge. What that means is you're curious about why are there 30 officers wandering around my property? Wouldn't you agree with that?
That could be the case.
Okay, thank you. So then when Mr. Daybell left Emma's house, it's your testimony that he sped off. Is that what your testimony was?
I believe it appeared that he was speeding.
It appeared he was speeding. Okay. So he doesn't have any knowledge about what's going on the property at that point, right?
No, I don't know that.
Okay,
don't know what
he hasn't been told by anybody from the law enforcement agency that that they found something on his property. Is that fair?
Not that I was aware of.
Okay. And then in your testimony, and maybe he wasn't speeding, and maybe he was going fast. Is that fair?
Yes.
Okay, so he wasn't racing off then, correct?
He accelerated quicker than,
Okay. And the speed limit on Salem Highway, and I've been on there a couple of times, is about 50 miles an hour. Starts slow, but when you get right on Salem Highway, it's a 50-mile-an-hour road.
Council's testifying.
Okay, I'll ask him, Judge Instead.
Hold on. Again, when there's an objection, I don't want an immediate argument back. I want a moment to rule, and that objection is overruled.
Okay,
So you can re-ask and the officer can answer if he knows, knowing he's a law enforcement officer in the
Okay.
area.
do you have knowledge of what the speed limit is on Salem Highway in front of Mr. Daybell's house?
50 miles an hour.
Okay, so 50 miles an hour. So if you're pulling out of a driveway and Emma's where she used to live is right on Salem Highway, right?
Correct.
So it wouldn't be unusual for someone to pull into traffic and start accelerating into going down the road, right?
No,
Okay. Now, I saw on the body cam, did you have a chance to go look over your body cam?
yes,
Okay, and when did you review that?
couple days ago. I don't remember
Okay,
the date.
now I saw on the body cam, and if we have to, we'll play this for everybody to, if you have trouble remembering something, but I saw on the body cam where you pull up and Mr. Daybell stopped in a vehicle and you get out of the vehicle. Do you recall that?
Yes,
And then you walked up to, it looked like there were about 4 or 5 officers there, right?
I know that there were 2 unmarked surveillance officers that were there with me at that time.
Okay, but Officer Humercio was there.
He arrived shortly after,
Officer Ball was there.
arrived shortly after.
And as soon as they arrived and you walked up, there was a discussion to Mr. Daybell about where he was going. Do you remember that?
I don't recall that.
Did you have a discussion that he was going to visit somebody that morning?
I did not.
Did he have a discussion about having a meeting with his lawyer that morning?
Not to my,
Remember that?
not to my knowledge.
Okay. So you have no recollection of the discussion of anyone at that point pointing out to Mr. Daybell that he can't go see his lawyer, the lawyer can come to him?
I do recall overhearing a statement about his lawyer.
Okay, so now you remember the statement about the lawyer. So gleaming from that statement, you were to understand that Mr. Daybell was in the process of going to see his lawyer, right?
No,
Okay. Judge, I'm going to ask to publish the body cam that's been previously admitted into evidence, and I'll see if I can get this to go.
And that'll be exhibit 63.
Yes, Your Honor.
There's a pretty dodge coming through, I believe, with the on the fall tape.
What do we got? Do we know what we have?
I don't know what they want.
Yeah, go ahead and step out here for us. They just asked us to stop you, so just come right here. They're gonna come and chat with you, okay? Just stand right here. You don't have anything on you? No weapons or nothing?
Okay, Shannon. Are you aware? Okay, so we're going to detain you for a minute. We'll figure out what we're going to do. Well, your attorney can now come to you.
Okay. So it's difficult to hear Mr. Daybell, but he commented to the officer when the officer inquired, what he was doing. Do you now recall that?
I couldn't hear what
Okay.
he said.
But the officer's response to Mr. Daybell was, now your lawyer can come to see you. Did you recognize that?
Yes,
Which officer, by the way, said that?
I believe that was Lieutenant Ball.
Okay, so Lieutenant Ball is the one who said, your officer can come to you now. Is that fair? Your
Attorney,
lawyer can come to you now.
yes,
Okay. So it appears that Mr. Daybell was in the process of going to see his lawyer that morning.
I can't testify that at.
Right. But according to Lieutenant Ball's comment, your lawyer can come to you now. It sort of presumes that, doesn't it?
I could presume that he was trying to call or wanted to talk to his attorney first.
Okay, and he was doing that in his car as he was driving away, right?
I don't know that.
Or he was doing that driving down the road instead of spending another hour in his house with Emma talking to his lawyer on the phone. He chose to instead, well, I'll just get in the car and
Objection, Your Honor, it's calling for speculation.
Sustained.
and then after that point, you put Chad into handcuffs, right?
Yes,
Put him in the back of your car.
yes,
And that was the video that we observed with Mr. Wixom, correct?
correct.
Okay. Now, do you recall, Mr. Daybell, on the video that you looked at with Mr. Wixom, where Mr. Daybell mentions, I don't know what they're charging me with. Do you record him saying that?
Yes,
Okay. Now, you also record him, or also recall him, excuse me, saying to Emma, cooperate as much as you feel. Remember Emma saying that?
yes.
Okay. At what point during that process was Mr. Daybell advised that they found a body on his property?
Right prior to this clip right here.
Okay. And at the point that he was having a discussion with his daughter, Emma, at that point, he didn't know what he was being charged with, correct?
Not to my knowledge,
Nobody told him what he was being charged with, correct?
not to my knowledge.
But it's a pretty serious allegation if you get put in a set of handcuffs and put behind a van, and then suddenly they say, we found a body on your property, right?
Could you repeat the question?
That's a pretty serious allegation.
Yes,
In your traffic experience, that's not something that happens every day, right?
right.
So at that point, Mr. Daybell is put in the back of the car, Chad's put in the back of the car, and Emma was allowed to talk with him, right?
Correct.
So we don't know what was going on in Mr. Daybell's mind, do we?
I don't.
Right. And we don't know what he's thinking, right?
Right.
But we do know that he's been told, guess what? They found a body on your property, right?
Correct.
Okay. And you're in handcuffs, right?
Correct.
And then Mr. Daybell says, we're going to make it through this, right?
Yes, sir.
And he's talking to his daughter about financial, where he can come up with money, credit cards, business accounts that he has, things like that, correct?
They were discussing those.
Right. So the purpose of discussing that, we don't know whether he was doing that to try to figure out a way if he could post bond on a release after he's being accused of this, right?
I don't know that.
You don't know that, right? We don't know what the reason for him trying to get his financials in order, right?
Right.
Now, I want to go back to the driveway. And originally, Chad was parked in a driveway from the south side. There's a driveway that comes in through the south, right?
Yeah, southeast of the residence.
Southeast of the residence. A long driveway that gets right into the middle of what I would call the backyard, the lawn area of the yard, right?
Correct.
Okay, now that's where he originally was parked, correct?
Yes.
And would you agree with me that parked in that location gives you the best view of the fire pit and the pond?
I don't know about the pond because there was a shed there, but the fire pit.
Clearly the fire pit, right?
Correct.
And you don't know about the pond because the pond is off back on a portion of the property set back a little further, right?
Correct.
And it's a distance to see it, correct? That'd be fair, wouldn't it? Fair?
Distance is pretty relative, I guess.
Okay. Well, how far from where Mr. Daybell was parked to looking at the tree where they found JJ's remains?
I couldn't testify to an exact
Okay.
distance.
All right, fair enough. It's a distance though. This isn't his backyard, right?
You could see it easily,
Okay, you could see it easily from that location where he was.
distance wise, that amount of distance.
Okay, but the remains of both of these children were found in the pasture area, right?
Yes.
So if we say what I'm talking about, the backyard, would you agree with me that the backyard is where this driveway is and where the lawn is? That would be really the backyard. Would you agree with that?
That's landscaped as grass. Yes.
Right, okay, and then beyond a fence is the fire pit, and then further down off in the far, which would be the northeast corner, is a tree with a pond back some ways away from the house, right?
To the north of the fire pit.
Right. So this is what I'm struggling with. This is where I'm having some difficulty. If you have such a good view of the fire pit and the pond with the tree where JJ was found, if your purpose is to observe and see what's going on for some nefarious reason, why would he move?
I believe he was advised to, so they could get crime scene stuff in and out of that driveway.
Okay, so he was told he had to get out of there.
I believe so.
Okay, do you know who told him that?
I don't.
Okay. So then he drives out and goes in front of the house in the driveway.
Correct.
There's no other place to go. He has to go in the driveway, right?
If he wants to remain at the house, yes.
Right. And it's your testimony that he was looking around a little bit at that point, right?
Correct.
Okay, so, he wasn't emotional at that point, right?
I didn't have a good vantage point to
Okay.
determine that.
He didn't have a look of fear on his face at that point. Is that right?
Not that I could see.
Okay. He didn't have a look of nervousness or tension or anything like that, did he?
I believe that he did
You believe he did?
Yes.
Are you basing that on him turning his head and looking around?
multiple times.
Okay, how many times is multiple?
There was 4 or 5, and then him exiting the vehicle.
Okay, okay. So if someone is on your property and there are 30 police officers digging around on your property, you don't think someone would be curious about what's going on your property?
That's why I said that I believe he was nervous.
Okay, he was curious.
It could be both, yes.
Oh, okay, okay. Okay. But then he didn't run at that point, right?
No,
He went over to his daughter's, right?
correct.
And he was there for an hour and a half, almost 2 hours. Right?
Correct.
And then we just saw the video. He got accelerated a little bit, 50 miles an hour in Salem Highway. And when he stopped, he was planning on going to see his lawyer. Right?
I don't know that.
Okay. Well, why would Lieutenant Ball say he's going to have to come to you? Was that
Calls for
just-
speculation, Your Honor.
Sustained.
Lieutenant Ball said to him, your lawyer's going to have to come to you, right?
Something along those lines, yes.
So there was at least a discussion about going to see the lawyer, right?
I don't know that.
Okay. You just think that was a statement Lieutenant Ball would just throw out there?
Judge, this has been asked and answered. It's a pure speculation. The witness doesn't know.
I'll move on, Judge.
Well, again, I'd like to be allowed a chance to rule on that, and it is sustained as asked and answered. So do move on, Mr. Pryor.
Now, after you put Chad in the back of the car and what we talked about with Emma, talking about the finances, and there was a time when Emma made a comment that I can tell by your expression that you didn't know what was going on out there, something to that effect. You remember hearing that?
Yes,
Okay, and you saw Chad's eyes when they talked about the body and his expression. So he had a reaction to that surprise. Would you agree with that?
I couldn't see that.
Okay. But obviously we have the video and we can make our own determination at some point, right?
Sure.
What the reaction was when he's told about a body that was being found. Okay. So then subsequent to that time, after Emma left, if you look at the outside camera of the premises, Chad, at one point, you talked about this, looked back, right? And you said that was towards the fire pit, right?
There were multiple times that he looked back towards that area, yes.
But if he was looking back, if you look at the position of the car, isn't it true that he was actually looking back at his daughter walking away and Officer Dave Hope behind the vehicle?
I don't know.
You don't know
Where-
what he was looking at?
No, I don't know where Emma was at. She lives in front of the vehicle, so I don't know why she would be behind it.
Okay, and then the video speaks for itself, though, as to what exactly Chad was looking at, right?
It shows what direction he was looking at.
Okay, on the outside body, the outside cam of your vehicle, right?
In the front, I don't know what outside cam you're talking
The
about.
camera that was recording the encounter from the outside of your vehicle.
My body cam,
No, there were two cameras there.
front car camera,
Front car camera, and then there was the one inside the car as well, right?
correct.
Okay. But the cameras will speak to themselves as to where Chad was looking, right?
Yes,
Okay. Now, and correct me if I'm wrong, and I may be mistaken. But I thought you previously testified that by looking straight out the window, the way Chad's vehicle was positioned, that looking straight out the driver's or the passenger side window or the window he was in would be right directly at the fire pit. Isn't that what you testified to?
his residence.
Okay. So you're telling me that by looking behind or back, he's looking away from his residence. Is that what you're saying?
Correct.
Okay. So again, what time did you drop Chad off at the jail?
Believe it was approximately 12:45.
Okay. And I just need to clarify something else. How, have you been on that property before?
Prior to that day?
Yeah.
No,
Okay. All right. But you saw cadaver dogs there on that day?
yes.
Okay. And again, what time did you get back from after you dropped Chad off?
Back to the residence approximately 13:30, 1:30.
And for those of us who aren't in the military,
Sorry,
that'd be 1:30, right?
approximately 1:30 PM. Yeah.
Okay. I can do that math, I think. And then you were there until what time at night?
I don't recall the exact time until we decided to
Okay.
convene till the next day.
And your primary goal at that point was excavation, is that right?
After I had returned, they reassigned me to help with the property.
Okay, and what role specifically? Were you at the fire pit or were you at the tree back behind the pasture there?
Primarily the fire pit area.
Okay, and do you recall who was with you at the fire pit?
There were multiple people.
When you say multiple, how many are we talking about?
I can't, I don't even want to estimate. There
That
was,
many?
there was people coming and going.
Oh,
So I don't
okay.
recall who was there and when.
And they were handing off the shovels and the tools used to do that?
Not necessarily handing them off, maybe expanding areas to look at and sift through.
And at one time, how many people would you say were digging around the fire pit with you?
I don't want to testify to that. I don't know.
You don't want to testify or
I
you don't
I don't know. I don't know for sure how many.
Was it more than 2?
Yes,
Was it more than 4?
yes.
Was it more than 8?
I don't, no, I don't know.
Okay, and were you using just shovels?
No, they had sifters, hand tools, shovels.
So shovels, sifters, hand tools, anything else, or is that it?
Not that I can recall.
Other than digging in the dirt in the fire pit, was there any other obstruction in the fire pit that you recall having difficulty with?
Repeat that question.
Any difficulty in digging in the soil when you were at the fire pit?
Where we found Tylee's
Yes,
remains,
where Tylee's remains were found.
just how careful we wanted to be.
Okay. So there were no boards, there were no obstructions, there were no rocks or anything like that. It was soil that you had to dig through. Is that fair?
There was some clumps of rock or hard,
Yeah, but nothing else, just small clumps?
not that I recall.
Okay, and were you there primarily for a significant amount of the time of the excavation?
Yes,
Okay, okay, good. And Judge, I think that's all I have. I think that's all I have at this point.